I'm starting a new series of messages this week, as much for my own benefit as anybody else's. We as a church have a mission statement. You may be aware of this. And a mission statement is sort of a concise encapsulation, there we go, that summarizes for people what an organization is about. It helps outsiders understand the organization better. It reminds insiders in the organization of who they are and why they are together. So I'll give you some examples of mission statements. And I want to see if you can tell me what major multinational corporation belongs to each of these mission statements, okay? So here we go. The first one is, whose mission statement is this? To inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. Any ideas? Starbucks. Awesome. That is Starbucks' mission statement. To inspire one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. Okay, next one. Whose mission statement is this? To organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Google. There, my goodness.
They have another half of that.
Oh, yeah?
Don't be evil.
Don't be evil. Oh, I like that one. That should be everybody's mission statement. Don't be evil. Okay. Third one. This one might be a little bit tricky. Not sure. Here we go. Whose mission statement is this? More than building machines, we stand for the timeless pursuit of adventure, freedom for the soul. Any ideas? We stand for the timeless pursuit of adventure, freedom for... No? No?
Sounds like a car company.
Close? Harley Davidson. The timeless pursuit of adventure, freedom for the soul. Okay, whose mission statement is this? Helping people walk with Jesus in faith, hope, and love to the glory of God. There we go. Multinational Incorporated PLC, all rights reserved. That is our mission statement. Helping people walk with Jesus in faith, hope, and love to the glory of God. And that encapsulates in a small sentence the big ideas that are important to us as Calvary Baptist Church. So for the next few weeks, because I'm new-ish, I want to study through those ideas. We're going to look at what does it mean to walk with Jesus? What does it mean to walk in faith? To walk in hope? To walk in love? And what does it mean to do all of these things to the glory of God? But this week I'm starting with those first two words, because I think those first two words are sort of the trickiest. I think those first two words are the ones where we might get tripped up. Helping people. You see, our mission as believers in Jesus is not just walking with Jesus, myself, in faith and hope and love, but to do that together in community and to invite other people to do that with us, to share that journey. We seek to help others beyond our walls to find the path to start walking with Jesus, and we want to help each other, already here part of this family, to continue that journey with Jesus. But like I said, those first two words are, in our day, in our culture, probably the trickiest to navigate, because most people I know, they're good with faith and hope and love. Whether they're Christians or not. Most people are good with faith and hope and love. Most people, whether they're Christians or not, they like Jesus. They like what they understand of him. They like who they think he is in their best understanding. Most people, I think, in the world understand that God exists and God is great and there is glory and greatness in the person of God, and it's appropriate for us to acknowledge that. But an awful lot of people are going to wonder about those first two words, helping people. It can be a bit tricky. It sounds simple, but it gets complicated because you got to ask yourself, do people want our help? Do we want each other's help? This is something that's hard to track down the source of. It's hard to really identify where it began. But it's been said that the 3 least trusted statements of all time are, the check is in the mail, of course I'll respect you in the morning, and I'm from the government and I'm here to help. And unfortunately, for an awful lot of people, you could put church in there instead of government, because church people who want to help have a bit of a reputation. For some people, the church that wants to help is like that kid in school who says, if you give me your lunch money, I'll make sure nobody beats you up. Just trying to help. When I was working on my ordination journey and learning in seminary, I had a few people tell me, oh, you're a woman and you want to preach. Well, let me explain to you why that's wrong and you shouldn't. I'm just trying to help. Unfortunately, we also have the example of, hey, we got these residential schools. Let us take your kids and teach them to learn to read and write. We're just trying to help. And very often, when religious people offer to help, especially in spiritual things, the first question they get in response is, why? Why? What's in it for you? You think you're better than me? You want to convert me? You want my money? You want to feel good about yourself? You want to assuage your guilt? We see this a lot in popular culture, in movies and books and games. If there's a religious character in there, they are, at worst, probably a sociopath. At best, probably a well-intentioned fool. And somewhere in the middle, a self-deluded hypocrite. In our culture, in large part, we have to be honest with ourselves and acknowledge that the church has lost trust. Sometimes that's because we violated trust. But we have lost the respect of our broader culture in a lot of different ways, and a lot of people out there neither want nor need our help. But our mission statement begins helping people. Because helping people and being a helping people is in our DNA. The passage that Pat read for us this morning gives us the starting point for understanding who we are as a helping people. God said, it's not good for the human to be alone. I'm going to make the human a helper. And that helper word, that in Hebrew, the word is ezer. We spell it E-Z-E-R when we transliterate it into English letters. It's ezer. And that exact same word that is used to describe Eve is also used to describe Yahweh God. God is our ezer. Psalm 33, our soul waits for the Lord. He is our ezer and our shield. Deuteronomy chapter 33, there is none like the God of Israel who rides the heavens to your ezer. The eternal God is your dwelling place, and underneath, love this, underneath are the everlasting arms. So in Genesis, we are told that God created humanity in his image. In the image of God, he created male and female. He created them. And part of that reality, part of that creation, part of our identity, being in the image of God, is that he is our ezer. And we are built to help. And we are built to be helped. We are created in the image of our ezer. But in case you hadn't noticed, a lot of water has gone under the bridge since the second chapter of Genesis. I read an interesting paper this week on individualism in religion. Really interesting, written by, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right, but Dominika Motak. That's the author's name. And she wrote about a couple of sociologists who focus on religion and society and how the two interact and how the two clash. One of the authors, writing in 1898, so 1898, that was a year when people were coming to this building on Sunday mornings wearing bowler hats and big skirts. Emile Durkheim wrote about the cult of the individual. And he wrote that the cult of the individual is a mindset in which the individual is, at the same time, both the idol and the worshiper. The individual is both the idol and the worshiper. Another sociologist, Danielle Hervieux-Léger, stated that in the contemporary, she was writing in 2006, so this is more in our time, times have not changed in regard to this, states that in the contemporary do-it-yourself approach to religious belief and practice, traditions simply serve as symbolic repositories of meaning available to individuals to subjectively use and reuse in different ways. Which is awesome, because basically what she's saying is that there was a time in the church when we approached our faith in Christ like a jigsaw puzzle. We would go to the store, we would buy the jigsaw puzzle, the picture was on the box. We would take it home, we would dump the pieces on the table, we would find the pieces that made sense to us that we could put together, and what we would end up with reflected the reality of the picture on the box. But today we approach our faith in Christianity more like Lego blocks. Even if we go to the store and buy a kit that has a picture of the Starship Enterprise on the cover, we take that thing home, we dump it on the table, we sort out the pieces, we put the box over there somewhere, we lose the instructions, and when we're finished putting together our pieces, we don't end up with the Starship Enterprise, we end up with a horsey and a wagon. This is how our approach to faith has changed. When it comes to our faith and our identity, we don't want help. We don't want the instructions. We don't want the picture on the cover. I define me. Even among Christians, I define my spirituality. My faith has room in it for me and Jesus. But our mission statement begins with the words, helping people. Because being a helping people is in our DNA. We are created to Ezer. We are created to receive Ezer from each other. And so we live in that tension. We live in that tension between living my faith in Jesus, which is important and valuable and precious and unique and distinctive to me, and also living our faith as our soul, like the psalmist said, our soul waits for God. We live in that tension between doing what we are conditioned to want to do and doing what we were created for. Asking ourselves, how can I ask for help? How can I accept help? That's just going to make me look weak. How can I offer my help? I don't have it all together. I don't have everything figured out. I'm going to look silly and I'm going to look judgmental. How can I offer help? And this is our challenge. This is the challenge that's presented to us by those first two words of our mission statement, helping people. How do we navigate that challenge? Well, as a Baptist pastor, might I humbly suggest that because our identity, because our humanity began as an idea fully formed in the mind of Yahweh God, because He created us in His image, is it possible that we might find help in a book that began as an idea in the mind of Yahweh God, rather than just trying to figure it out for ourselves trying to listen to the voices of our culture, trying to listen to the voices of our family of origin, listen to the voice that God has recorded for us in Scripture. So we've already looked at that word, Ezer. Ezer is an Old Testament word for help. Ezer is what is the adjective that is used, the noun that is used for who God is, what he does for us. That's the Old Testament. In the New Testament is the part of the Bible that was written during the life of Jesus and on afterwards. In the New Testament, there's a whole bunch of words that get translated into English as help. I think I identified like 7 or 8 as far as I got with that this week. But I've picked out 3. 3 situations where Jesus presented people with an explanation of what it looks like to help and how to approach this thing that is in us dying to come out. And how did he approach it? What did Jesus do? Right? What did Jesus do? So the first word that we translate into English as help is, and my pronunciations are approximate because I'm not an ancient Greek. I'm not an ancient anything yet, but I'll do my best. The first word is boetheo. Boetheo. And that word means to run to the aid of those who cry for help. So like firefighters and first responders, boetheo. In Matthew chapter 15, we read about a Canaanite woman who came to Jesus crying out, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon-possessed. She's suffering terribly." The woman knelt before him and said, "Lord, boetheo me." So what happened? What did Jesus do? The woman cried out in desperation. She cried out for help, and Jesus heard, and he did what only he could do. He helped her. In Luke chapter 10, there's another word, and I'm going to stumble over this one. Sunantilam banomal, a longer word, and it means to take hold of something with someone, to share a burden, to take the other side of something and carry it together. And in Luke chapter 10, we read about Mary and Martha, and Jesus and his disciples were visiting in Martha's home, and she wanted to be a good host and to do the thing that she was responsible for, and that is not a bad thing. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to Jesus, and she said, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to sunantilambanomai me." So what happened? What did Jesus do? Jesus heard Martha lamenting what seemed unfair, what seemed unjust in her world. And Jesus took hold of Martha's burden, and he gave her permission to let go. He helped her. Not in the way she wanted, but he helped her. In John chapter 6, there's another word, opheleo. This means to be of good use, to have value to someone. So in John chapter 6, Jesus has been telling his disciples teaching that they just don't understand and they can't figure out and is not making any sense to them. And the writer says, aware that his disciples were grumbling about what he'd said, Jesus said to them, "Look, guys, the Spirit gives life. The flesh is no opheleo. The words I have spoken to you, they are full of spirit and life." So what happened? What did Jesus do? His disciples didn't even ask for help. They didn't even talk to him, but he knew them better than they expected, and he met them where they were. He met them in their struggling faith, and yeah, you know what? He doubled down on truth. But at the same time, he gave them hope. And he was able to do these things. He was able to help Martha let go of her burden and move on. He was able to help his disciples look forward with not understanding necessarily, but with hope to his faithfulness in their life down the road. The Canaanite woman, he was able to help her to deliver her daughter from this oppression and this suffering. He was able to do those things because he was there. He was present in their lives. He was walking with them. They were walking with him, and they were walking with each other. They were living their faith in their community, rubbing up against each other, driving each other nuts, and helping each other when they could. So what does this mean today? What does this look like for us today? We walk out of here this afternoon. We get up tomorrow morning. What does this look like for us today? To be Ezer in the world. Because we are created in the image of God. We are created in the image of our Ezer. We are commanded to follow Jesus. We are commanded to become more like him, to do the things that he did. How can we be helping people in the world? Well, first I would suggest that we offer our help. And this isn't just a suggestion. This is I didn't use that word. Forget that word. This is a teaching. This is a command of, I think, of Jesus and of God, to offer our help in empathy. Being present in the lives of others, yes, but also learning to see life through their eyes. Learning to relate to their perspectives, putting yourself in their shoes. If I were sitting there, if I were standing there, if I were experiencing that, how would I feel? What would that look like to me? What would my options be? What doors would be closed to me? What would be impossible for me? What would be possible for me? Empathy is crucial in understanding how to help people well. And empathy is what Jesus did. Jesus' entire life, his conception, his birth, childhood, puberty, adulthood, his friendships, his family, his citizenship, his neighborhood, his career as a carpenter, learning a skill and learning to work with his hands, his career as a teacher, working with his spirit and his mind and his voice, all of his joys, his everyday griefs and temptations. The moments when Jesus sat celebrating at the wedding of a friend, rejoicing for his friend at the same time knowing that he, his human self, would never be the groom. Knowing those moments when he's sitting with children on his lap, laughing at their delightfulness and booping their noses, knowing that he himself would never be a human dad. The moments in his life when he stubbed his toe and saw the bruise start to come up. When he was working in the shop and had to ask Joseph to dig a splinter out of his hand and saw the redness of his own blood. His whole life was the ultimate act of empathy. This was our Ezer walking with us, being one of us, feeling our emotions, feeling our pain, feeling all that it is to be human, being one of us. Jesus lived a life of empathy. And the second way that we can live our lives of being a helping people is to offer our help in humility. Not because I know better than you, not because I have more than you, not because if you would just listen to me, you wouldn't have these problems. Jesus was God. But the scripture writer tells us in the book of Philippians, in Paul's letter to the church in Philippi, he writes, he emptied himself He took the form of a servant. He made himself in human likeness. Jesus, who was God, got down on his knees. He cleaned up messes. He answered questions in words of one syllable because that's what we needed. He humbled himself. He could have shown off. He could have put himself so high above us, but he chose not to do that. He chose to humble himself, to get down to where we are, to be where we are in our reality. For Christians, for believers in Jesus who are called to imitate him, who are called to model him, who are called to become more like him, little by little by little. Helping people and being a helping people doesn't mean having all the answers. It doesn't mean you have to know all the answers. It doesn't mean telling people what to do. It doesn't mean giving them what we think they ought to need. It doesn't necessarily even always mean being right. Helping means being present, showing up, meeting people where they are, traveling together. And yeah, sometimes helping means doubling down on truth and saying, I can't compromise on this. Sometimes it means giving people permission to pry their own fingers loose from what they need to let go. Sometimes it means helping them carry it by grabbing the other handle. Sometimes helping means standing with people and saying nothing. Sitting with people and saying nothing. Sometimes it means speaking for them when they can't speak for themselves. And sometimes it means doing stuff that we can do. And we learn to distinguish in different situations about how to help people by being present, by being part of a family, by being part of a community, by being part of a group of people who are all trying to travel in the same direction and follow the same leader. So yeah, our mission statement begins helping people.